10 child stars from the golden age of Hollywood who vanished from the spotlight, often mysteriously, tragically, or quietly, leaving behind an eerie silence after early stardom. Some disappeared into obscurity, some faced dark ends, and others simply walked away and were forgotten. 1. Baby Peggy. Fame era, silent films. Disappearance, career ended suddenly by age 7, lived anonymously for decades. Baby Peggy was born Peggy Jean Montgomery and was one of the biggest silent film stars of her era. By age 5, she was a household name, appearing in more than 150 shorts and full-length features. Her image was everywhere from advertisements to dolls. She earned over $1 million by the mid-1920s. However, her career ended abruptly due to a dispute between her father and studio executives. By age 7, she was effectively blacklisted. Worse, her parents squandered her fortune. For decades, she lived anonymously, working as a writer under the name Diana Sarah Carey and never speaking of her past until much later in life. She resurfaced as a film historian in the 1990s, writing about the exploitation of child stars, but for most of her life, people believed baby Peggy had vanished forever or died young. 2. Scotty Beckett. Fame era, Our Gang/Little Rascals, major studio films through 1940s. Disappearance, career collapsed in early adulthood, died under mysterious circumstances. Scotty Beckett was one of the most charming child actors of the 1930s and 40s. Starting in Our Gang at age 4, he later co-starred in prestigious films with legends like Judy Garland, Shirley Temple, and Cary Grant. He was being groomed for major stardom as a leading man. But behind the scenes, he struggled with alcohol, drugs, and a string of failed marriages. He was arrested numerous times for drug possession and burglary. In 1968, he was found dead in a Los Angeles nursing home at just 38 years old. The cause was labeled a barbiturate overdose, but the exact events leading to his death were murky. Once a household name, Beckett had become an anonymous, forgotten figure. His decline was swift and brutal, and Hollywood simply moved on. 3. Bobby Driscoll. Fame era, 1940s, early 1950s. Disappearance, died alone, buried in a pauper's grave, identity unknown for over a year. Bobby Driscoll was the first child actor signed to an exclusive Disney contract. He voiced Peter Pan and starred in beloved classics like Treasure Island and So Dear to My Heart. In 1950, he won a special Juvenile Academy Award. But by the time he reached adolescence, Disney dropped him. He struggled to get roles as he aged, and he soon spiraled into addiction and legal trouble. In 1968, his body was found in an abandoned building in New York City. No ID. No name. He was buried in a pauper's grave, unknown. A year later, his mother tried to find him and had his fingerprints matched. Only then was his identity revealed. One of Disney's brightest stars had vanished without a trace until long after his death. 4. Freddie Bartholomew. Fame era, 1930s. Disappearance, career faded after lawsuits and war, spent adult life working in advertising. Freddie Bartholomew was the British-born boy who starred in some of MGM's most prestigious dramas of the 1930s. With an upper-class accent and emotional depth, he became one of the studio's most bankable child stars. But his fame caused a bitter custody battle between his birth parents in England and the aunt who raised him in America. Legal troubles and a hiatus caused by World War II derailed his career. When he returned, Hollywood had changed. No longer the angelic child, Bartholomew couldn't find meaningful work and gradually disappeared. He later worked in TV production and advertising under his real name, rarely speaking about his Hollywood past. the boy who once rivaled Shirley Temple in fame became virtually forgotten. 5. Peggy and Garner. Fame era, 1940s. Disappearance, couldn't transition to adult roles, faded into obscurity. Peggy and Garner received an Academy Juvenile Award for her stunning performance as Francie Nolan in A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. Critics praised her emotional range, and she was hailed as one of the most promising young talents in Hollywood. But like many child stars, she struggled to find adult roles. Studios typecast her as the precocious child, and her career dwindled into B-movies and television guest spots. She attempted stage acting but was never able to reclaim her former success. She died at 52 of pancreatic cancer, largely forgotten by the industry that once celebrated her. 6. Bonita Granville. Fame era, 1930s. Disappearance, left acting for marriage, lived privately. Granville received an Academy Award nomination at age 14 for these three, and became beloved for playing teen detective Nancy Drew in a series of 1930s films. But her fame began fading in the 1940s. Rather than chase a struggling career, she married oil millionaire Jack Rather and left acting completely. She lived quietly, later co-producing several Disney TV shows like Lassie. Though she led a successful private life, her abrupt disappearance from film made many wonder what had happened to the once famous Nancy Drew. 7. Baby Leroy. Fame era, 1930s. Disappearance, quit acting before age 5, lived anonymously. Baby Leroy appeared in several hit comedies with W.C. Fields and became one of the youngest stars of the early sound era. Known for his mischievous on-screen presence, he often stole scenes even from Fields himself. However, after a few films, his family pulled him out of the business. He never acted again and grew up away from the spotlight. In adulthood, he declined all interviews and never used his fame. He reportedly worked as a merchant seaman and a laborer. His fame was so fleeting and his withdrawal so complete that many assumed he had died as a child. 8. George Spanky McFarland. Fame era, Our Gang/Little Rascals. Disappearance, found occasional work, but faded into obscurity. Spanky was one of the most recognizable faces of the Our Gang comedies. His charisma and comic timing helped define the series. But once he aged out of the show, he found it almost impossible to get other roles. He later joined the Air Force and worked in sales and marketing. Occasionally he appeared at Little Rascals conventions or TV specials, but the fame he once knew had vanished. He passed away in 1993, known only to old film buffs and nostalgic fans. 9. Carl Alfalfa Switzer. Fame era, Our Gang/Little Rascals. Disappearance, career collapsed, killed in a mysterious shooting. Alfalfa's odd cowlick and cracking voice made him unforgettable. But after the Our Gang series ended, Carl Switzer had a hard time finding roles. He occasionally played bit parts including in It's a Wonderful Life, but most of his life was spent working odd jobs: bartender, dog trainer, hunting guide. In 1959, he was shot and killed at age 31 during a dispute over a $50 debt related to a hunting dog. The shooting was ruled self-defense, but many details remain unclear. The sudden, violent end to one of America's best-known child stars remains one of Hollywood's eeriest stories. 10. Shirley Temple's forgotten co-stars. Fame era, 1930s. Disappearance, overshadowed, typecast, and quickly forgotten. Shirley Temple was the queen of the Depression-era screen, but what about the other kids who acted beside her? Names like Jane Withers, Sybil Jason, and Billy Lee briefly rose in Hollywood, but none could compete with Temple's star power. Studios tried launching rival stars, but when they failed to click with audiences, they were quickly discarded. Many returned to private life, married young, or took ordinary jobs. Most never spoke publicly about their careers, leaving only brief credits and a handful of photos behind. Their fame vanished so quickly that most never even became trivia answers. These vanished child stars from the golden age reveal a harsh truth: the Hollywood dream can be fleeting. Behind the bright lights and smiles were contracts, pressure, and exploitation. Some were abandoned by the studios when they aged. Others chose to walk away. And a few disappeared so completely that even fans of the era still ask, whatever happened to them?